police are wrongly, I don't want to say persecuted, but wrongly, largely inconvenienced and mistrusted on a lot of issues. And I refer to this as the scaling problem. If you have 100 police interactions in a city, just 100, and in that one guy dies under debated circumstances, it's a contentious issue and it will be debated, but people largely move on and nobody blames the police. That's 1% death rate in police interactions. If you have 300 million police interactions and 9 people die in a year, those 9 stories turn into national endeavors, which creates an entire movement.
Yes.
But that is a microscopic percentage of failure. So the more a system grows, the less tolerance there is for failure. So what I think we end up seeing is police are being overly constrained because of fears that, once again, if in this country you only had 100 police officers, one for every big city of a certain size, and only one person had died, well, one person died. It's just one person. But when you get 9 deaths in 1 year, it becomes a pandemic of racist violence because now you have every month almost a new story emerging in the press. And then people are on social media and that's all they see. And when this was going down, I think the head of the police union in New York said, we have 300 or so million interactions and they're overwhelmingly fine. I mean, some people get mad that they got a ticket, but nobody's acting like the cops murdering you.
Right.
So
So
this
it becomes a narrative, right? It becomes, oh my God, the police are killing a young black man every month or every week or whatever.
It was 9.
Like it's a deliberate, malicious process that's happening.
Right. So that being said, there certainly are instances of bad cops doing bad things. There was a cop, I think it was like South Carolina, where he did shoot a man in the back who was fleeing on foot. It was not a threat.
Oh, yeah, the fat cop. Yeah. Yeah, don't be the fat cop.
He didn't want to run. The first thing I'm thinking is, you know, as a detective, you get called to an instance like what happened with Carmela Anthony. What are you thinking? What do you do? Like, how do you handle that situation?
You got to rely heavily on your the lieutenant that's in charge of the shift or sergeant, whatever, and you have to dictate a lot of, or not dictate. What's it called? Where you're like the head. Disperse. No. I'm blanking on the word. Whatever. Where you have to like have patrol take care of different things because you've only got so many hands and eyes.
Dispatch?
Delegate. Thank you. Big words. Hard for Army guy. You know.
There you go.
You know, if I wanted to read, I would have joined the Air Force. So when you really have to focus on delegation. And the other thing that you have to do is immediately you have to know who the witnesses are and where they are and separate them. The importance of separating a witness is key because what you don't want is you don't want one witness talking to another witness and then changing their individual point of view. Because even if you say, well, Tim stabbed him and Tim was wearing a brown beanie, and somebody goes, well, he was wearing a black beanie. And then, well, inconsequential, right? You're wearing a fucking hat. But 2 people start talking. One wonders, oh, geez, which one was it? Well, what else don't I know? So the important thing is you always want to separate your witnesses so that way you can get a clear, non-diluted picture of what they saw without any sort of other interpretation or something being thrown in there.
Yeah, we call it witness contamination. Because the witnesses, when they get to court, you want them testifying from their own personal knowledge of what happened. But if you leave them in a group and people are talking to each other, they're contaminating each other's recollections. And it's impossible for a witness to later on, that becomes their own memory.
Yeah.
So it's impossible for them to later on, like, take apart that ball of yarn. Right. Yeah.
Evidence collection is huge too. I mean, it was about to rain. It was raining.
Right.
They're throwing stuff all over the place to try and take the amount of officers in that statement that they write that are like, I pulled out my department issued camera and I took photos.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So there's reportedly video.
Yes.
Would the officers have asked to watch the video?
Oof. That they can. Right? It's not somebody, this kind of goes into like similar to like Miranda rights. If you're not suspected of a crime, you're not detained, these things matter, right? But if you're somebody that says, hey, I'm a witness, I'm freely giving you my phone, I have video of it, obviously the officer can ask, and most of the time most departments have body cams, it's recorded that, yes, I'm allowing you to look at my camera and you can view it. Now, once those officers view it and there is evidence, whether it be photo or video, that has to then be collected. So, Tim, you come up to me, I've got video. Sweet. I'm going to have to hold on to your phone for a minute until I can talk to a detective or one of our evidence collection team members, and then they're going to pull that video from your phone, get your information from it, because a lot of this...
They give you your phone back, right?
Maybe not on scene. Eventually, maybe not right away.
Well,
You're buying a new phone.
Right. This is the challenge. I mean, for a lot of people, you can't do that. Like, it's hard enough to transfer to a new phone, but if you don't have your old one, you will lose a lot of important information, images.
Yeah.
But so I feel like this is a deterrent. People are gonna be like, I ain't saying nothing.
I didn't say anything.
That being said, like we use in my department, we use Axon, so I can literally send you a text message from my department phone, which I have Axon access, and you can upload the video right then and there, and I don't need to take your phone. I might ask you if you have any other additional photos, but that's it.
So a situation like this where there's so many phones, I mean, I'm kind of guessing here, but I would expect that police would be more likely to look at a video on site, on scene, when there's like one video, and it may determine what their next step is. Like, are they going to make an arrest or not make an arrest?
Huge.
Here, you got a dead person. You're making an arrest. That guy's getting arrested. There's no question. There's no decision making that really needs to be made, right? And you have so many phones that you're going to want to have your leisure to look at all of those.
Yes.
You're not going to look at them all on scene.
The reason why I asked is because I suppose the next question I have is when you issue they arrested Anthony and they listed a charge for his arrest. Is that
correct?
That's a determination the police can make right there on the spot?
So, yes. I work mainly in the special victim unit. I am a special victims unit detective. I'm not yet in homicide. What's that?
Like the show.
Dude, when I first got on SVU and I would like talk to new people. I'd be like, yeah, I'm an SVU detective. Bum, 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 bum. And I do my own music. But a lot of times we will, and this actually happened the other day. I had an individual that came in for a sexual assault on a child, and I had the option. Do I start the ticking clock to where I have to give everything to the district attorney's office to where they can follow the ridiculous discovery laws in New York State, or by arresting him? Like, once you arrest him, hey, you're in handcuffs, you are under arrest, I'm putting charges on you, that ticking clock starts. Or can I have an indefinite period of time to conduct my investigation by saying, okay, thanks for coming in and talking to me. I know what you did. I've got statements from other people. I've got video of what you did. But I'm going to let you go today. And I'm going to have my conversation with the assistant district attorneys that run that specific case. And eventually we may indict you or we'll pick you up later, which is very difficult to tell victims of sexual abuse. Hey, we need to make sure that we have to nail this guy to the wall, which means even though I just talked to him, even though you told me what happened, even though there's physical evidence and you went to the hospital to retrieve it, I have to let him go.
But what about the fear that they offend again?
That happens. Well, I mean, do people offend again? Yes. Now, is that individual going to offend again immediately right away? Those numbers are so extremely low.
Right, because they're thinking, I'm caught, I better...
Yeah, I'm screwed. So, yeah.
The reason why I asked is because we had a conversation on the Anthony case, earlier in the week, and I said, based on the fact that we know that there's video and that they didn't charge him on the weapon, so I don't think it's a felony murder rule, and the presumption is, I assume these cops saw some of these people's video footage, that they decided to charge him on first-degree murder because they actually they believe like this guy did it. Mm-hmm. I'm curious if you would agree with that, or
if they did see the video, it would be on the report that we looked at earlier.
They would have said it.
Because there's statements of, I did this at this time, then I did that, which is huge. And I think every department, not just Texas, has to do that, where it's some sort of statement regarding what you did specifically on a homicide scene. If one of them looked at a phone and said, I saw the video, that would be in the statement. Yeah. I haven't seen anything that says that yet.
Right. Because I'm curious, is there a circumstance where the police charge him with first-degree murder thinking maybe it's not a first-degree murder?
Were they intentionally overcharge?
Yeah.
Intentionally overcharging is not a good look. Intentionally undercharging is good. And you'll be able to speak to this when it comes to misdemeanors and felonies. Misdemeanors, if you don't have an eyewitness person writing down a supporting deposition or a statement, you can't arrest for a misdemeanor. Within like 5 or 6 days, the first trial will be thrown away for insufficient evidence. However, a felony in New York State, you can go with reasonable suspicion. So hearsay would be involved. You heard from him that he was sexually assaulted. And you told me that. And what you told me from his statement to you is that it was felonious, right? It was whatever it was. It was a felony. I can effect an arrest from that and then have a felony trial later on just on your hearsay, but that can't happen from a misdemeanor. So there's...
It's a probable cause standard to make the arrest?
Yes.
Right. So in theory, probable cause, what it's supposed to mean is someone's applying their judgment to the evidence they have before them, and it's more likely than not, it's probable that the person committed the crime. In fact, the threshold is way below that, way below that. People get arrested on much less evidence all the time. But you can think of the police charging as almost like a preliminary charge, because the moment it ends up at the DA's office, they're doing a completely independent assessment of the evidence. And what they're not bound by anything the police said. It's as if the police hadn't made a charge at all. It's just the police have to charge you with something if they want to arrest you. And then the prosecutor is going to look at the evidence and come to their own assessment of whether or not they think probable cause exists for maybe a different crime, maybe the same crime, maybe a more serious crime. It's within their discretion.
This is the interesting thing, right? Like, murder is obvious. There's a guy on the ground, he's dead. There's a guy standing over with a knife. The cops are like, I'm going to arrest this guy, right? It looks like murder.
Well, the cops, the patrol officers there are, I'm going to detain him. An arrest isn't made until the detective states that he wants to put charges on him.
Interesting.
And then the official arrest is when he's booked down to whatever central booking, holding center, et cetera. So he's detained at that moment. Maybe not under arrest.
I have tried explaining this to people. They don't get it. It's like leftist activists think the moment a cop stops you, you've been arrested.
No, you've been detained.
And they also don't know that you can be arrested but later released without being processed.
Correct.
If the detective or whoever's supervising says, we're not going to do this.
Yes.
So what was I going to say? The question I had is, one thing I never quite understood is if it's a white collar crime, how does a cop make that arrest? If like a little old lady is saying that man just committed wire fraud, he just took all of my money. Like, let's say a sneaky guy goes to a woman's house, tricks her, defrauds her into transferring money from her bank to his bank account, and then he's walking away having stolen everything from her. The police show up and she's like, stop that man, he's just stole my money, through an app. You couldn't arrest him, could you?
You could still detain him because you have the victim is right there and an eyewitness to the crime that had occurred.
And then he just says, not a civil issue. We did a trade and she regrets it.
Boom.
It depends on what evidence you can develop. You know, I mean, if all she has is her words.
Yeah.
Well, so this is where it gets weird.
Welcome to my world, man.
Right. Let's say he's got a purse with a stack of 100.
He has a purse?
Yes.
How 25 of you?
No. The woman says, that's my purse. It's got $100,000 in it. He's calmly walking. Cop arrives. And he says, this is not correct. I just sold her a collector's baseball card with $100,000. She's lying. And then do they just give the purse back? Like, how would a situation like that be handled? If the accusation from the person robbing the woman is it's a civil matter.
Bro, you're burying me here in what ifs, right?
I know.
It's very difficult.
Right.
If I really wanted to, you're throwing this on me, and let's just say that that's all the information that I have. Like, that's it. Where I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. Guess what I'm going to do?
Nothing?
Oh, no, I'm going to take that person, that money, I'm going to put it in as evidence.
Wow.
Hey, guess what? Nobody gets it until we figure it out, Was
Yeah.
it King Solomon cut the baby in half?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey.
That's brutal.
We'll figure this out in litigation. You gave up the money. You got it. Well, whoever's money it is going to stick around the longest. And guess what? It's in a safe spot. So's the purse that's supposedly $100,000.
Did you ever see the show called The Real Hustle?
No.
It was like a British reality show where they had former con artists explain how to rip people off.
Oh, no. I saw a show where there was like a burglar in the United States and he would burglarize homes and like it was all on camera to show people how not protected their house was.
One of the confidence tricks is people like to leave receipts at ATMs after taking money out. And so what they'll do is they hang out by an ATM until they see someone leave the receipt. They go and check the receipt for exactly how much money was taken. ATMs typically dish out 20s. They reverse pickpocket their wallet into the victim with their ID in it. Call the police and say, I'm following the person who just pickpocketed me and took $200 cash in my wallet. What do I do? And the police say, don't interact. Wait for us. When the police arrive, they say, that's the person. The cop says, sir or ma'am, stop. We're searching you.
Yeah.
Pull the wallet. That's my wallet. It's got my ID in it. They open it up. Sure enough, there's the ID. Where's my $200 cash? And they say, empty your pockets. $200 cash found. You're under arrest. They give the wallet, or they keep the wallet and the cash, or they give it back. The con trick is to use the police to commit the crime for
a
you.
muscle.
Yep. That's terrifying.
God, that is so. That's a hard way to get a couple $1,000s or a couple $100. First, you got to take the wallet. You've already got the wallet. Why don't they just walk away with the wallet?
So the idea is the con man has an empty wallet with an ID in it. You reverse pickpocket onto the victim because you know they took $200 cash out of an ATM. You tell the police, I had a wallet with $200 in it. Search them. When they do, they find the wallet with your ID in it.
No money in it because he stole your wallet and put it in his.
He already took the money out and put it in his
And then
pocket.
they check his wallet and they find $200 in cash, and you can say, I told you, everything I said was true. And the victim gets arrested.
Because he's an idiot. He doesn't know you get rid of the wallet as soon as you take the money out of it.
Yeah, but what would a cop do in that circumstance if you searched the guy and he had a wallet and the cash as described by the victim?
We're limited by our circumstance.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So
Thanks, Tim. I guess we're all bad guys.
Well, I'm not blaming the cops for that one. I'm saying the con artists are constantly trying to find ways to game the system. Now, I don't know how many, robbers or thugs actually would go through that process.
That's a very unique process.
It's a lot of work.
It's a con man story of the ways so it may actually be a description of how they can actually game the system to steal from people. One of the tricks they do is there's two people, a pickpocket and an individual with a self-addressed stamped envelope. They pickpocket you and victims walking this way, they walk past you, pickpocket you, and the person behind them has an envelope, and the pickpocket immediately grabs it, puts it in the envelope, and then the person with the envelope drops it in a mailbox. The victim then says, where's my wallet? There's two guys. Nobody has a wallet. Nobody knows where it went.
That's smart.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff they do to pull off these things. So we're going way off on tangent, but I am interested in this. In the difference between when the DA has to issue an indictment to arrest somebody versus when the police could just do it.
A search warrant? Or just arrest?
Arrest.
Okay.
So, because I've heard stories in the news where it's like an indictment for the murder of a person has been issued by this guy. And it's like, what's the line for when the police can't make an arrest and the DA has to issue an indictment for the police to go and get the warrant for the arrest and stuff like that?
So the difference between, feel free to correct me here, the difference between a warrant and an indictment is that the warrant starts the arrest, which begins the legal process. An indictment is you're not detained and the process begins, but you're not in custody.
You're now a criminal defendant.
Correct.
In the trial proceeding. It's really the same threshold in a sense. I mean, the officer making the arrest, he has to have probable cause to make the arrest. The grand jury is essentially making a separate probable cause determination, but it's a transition point from merely being a suspect to being a criminal defendant named in a judicial proceeding.
And I don't have to physically pick you up. They can just be indicted by a grand jury.
And this is typically white collar crimes are typically indictments from a grand jury, like the DA brought a case.
Oh, sex crimes, same way. I have one right now where it's a group rape on a young woman. And because there's so many people involved, we don't want to put the onus on the police officers to go find each individual and hunt them down. We're going to put out an indictment warrant for all of them at the same time. And then eventually when they get picked up down the line, the process has already started. They can turn themselves in. They already have a right to an attorney. Or if they decide to run, then we'll get the federal marshals on them.
Interesting. I guess just outside of all this, I do want to ask a little bit about the Gibson Go stuff, but I'm just curious if you guys think we're in for a summer of love. It's because it's been debated.
I don't think it's because of this. I think this is...
Not that it's because of this, but with the Tesla stuff going on and just the political environment.
Oh, well, we have a lot of political violence happening. It's only going to get worse as long as, Trump is doing his Trump stuff. And the left, this is one, from my view at least, the whole progressive DEI woke thing is fundamentally a psychosis. It's a disconnection from reality. Those views cannot survive contact with reality. And when they're compelled to contact reality, they suffer cognitive dissonance. And on the left, that results in political violence. So I think we're definitely going to continue to see this kind of political-driven violence. I think it'll be different than the kind of police use of force stuff we saw in years past. I mean, one thing to keep in mind with these events is it's different when a cop does it. In at least one very important way. For one thing, they can call it systemic and institutionalized, but also a lot of money gets driven into police cases that don't exist with cases like Carmelo Anthony, because you can sue when it's a police officer who used the force, you immediately file a 1983 suit in federal court. It's easy money. Most of them settle. They don't actually go to trial. Guys like Benjamin Crump he owns yachts off of this stuff.
Does he really?
Yep. And
Wow.
so the moment it's an officer who used the force, as an attorney, you can go right into federal court, file a huge suit. And who decides whether or not to settle the suit? It's politicians. And politicians are not spending their own money to settle the suit. They're spending taxpayer money. And I guarantee you, politicians are always happy to spend other people's money to make their own political problems go away. So when it's a cop-involved case, it involves huge flows of money that don't exist when it's just two civilians who got in a fight.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, so subscribe and come hang out.